If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson cries for every dime.
Welcome to Simply the Law, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Simply the Law provides free legal advice and encourages happiness and quality of life. Now, here's Simply the Law with Gary C. Johnson.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into Simply the Law. I'm Keith Casebolt, my good friend over here, full of compliments tonight, Gary C. Johnson, the host of your program.
He can't take a joke.
Oh, no.
He just can't take a joke, especially if it's on him.
Well, I was assuming that it wasn't a joke.
Oh.
That was it.
Well, he's mad because I just stated the obvious.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
What can I say? Inside joke, folks.
Yeah.
How you guys doing? Hello. You're alive, right? Keith and I, we have a great time. We're always laughing, cutting up. You know why? Feels better. One time we had something go wrong, but I can't remember what it was. I think Keith got upset over it, but I can't remember.
I got to tell our friends, Gary has finally got me to the point now to where I laugh more at the mistakes and failures than I do the accomplishments. I am enjoying every part of this life because it is nothing but a little training ground and a learning curve. And what he told you about is we had a problem on the computer and I was trying to fix it. I don't know nothing about a computer. And sweat was pouring off my head, and Gary is sitting back with a cup of coffee, and he's got his feet up, and he's laughing and smiling. And I thought, if you knew how angry this computer is making me, you wouldn't be sitting there smiling and laughing. And Gary said, if you knew how relaxed I was watching you work and enjoying this, you'd smile too. So he's right, I was wrong.
See, Keith made the mistake of thinking it would make a difference whether that computer worked or not. If it didn't work, we'd sit there and have some coffee, come back another day and do it again. No big deal. But boy, oh Keith, you should see that sweat. It was amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it.
And I never did fix it, by the way.
Well, I didn't think you would, but.
No, you're right.
So folks, are we having fun living this life? Are we having a great big time living this life? And I hope and I pray that there's none of you that's angry or mad at each other right now that's watching this program. And I hope that for me, you will get over it and turn it loose and realize you just going to live and die. It don't make no big difference. Now, if there's something really got you mad right now at somebody, and you know 5 years from now it's going to really bother you, you can stay mad. Okay?
5 years is a long
5 years
time.
is a long time. So don't get over it. It just makes you feel bad, and the whole purpose of all of this life is to feel good, to be happy. Life. You can be so much healthier when you laugh. I'm going to share, real life experiences, I guess, from my clients and stuff that's important, and maybe I share with you folks. The other day, a client came in, and I hadn't seen her. Probably some other lawyer initially talked to her, and it was just a couple of weeks before I talked to her, and she had been in another lawyer's office, and they had her case, and she fired them or whatever, and then came to us. And that was the first chance I really had to sit down myself and find out about her case and talk to her, and I try to do that with every single person that comes in our office. It may take me a week or two or a month, but I'll get around to finding out for myself everything case that comes in the office. So I was sitting there talking to her, and I realized what a tragedy it was, I'll be honest with you, that I had not been able to talk to her back when she first got involved in litigation, which was about a year earlier, because she had let the lawsuit consume her. She had let it become her whole world. And I looked at her and I said, let's start over. Okay? Let's try to start over. And she was wringing her hands. And I felt so sorry for her because it didn't need to be that way. I said, and I gave her my speech then, which I always give to my clients. This table represents your whole life here. Everything in it, your family, church, God, everything is represented by the top of this table. You're getting ready to embark upon a thing called litigation, a lawsuit. May settle early, may go the whole way. We don't know. Out of this entire thing, which is your life, this tabletop, you're going to take this little bitty corner over here and you're going to dedicate it to this lawsuit. And guess what? You're going to leave me in charge of that. I don't want you thinking about this lawsuit anymore. I don't want you what-ifing this lawsuit anymore. I don't want you to even make it part of your life. Other than when you have a question, you call us. We'll keep you informed of what's going on. It's what we do for a living. Please, please go home tonight and get some sleep so you can heal. She wasn't healing. And the reason she wasn't healing was because that lawsuit and the stress of being in that litigation was destroying her life. And it will. Good, decent people don't want to be in a lawsuit. Every one of you folks that's watching this would dread immensely to be in a lawsuit, wouldn't you? You would hate it. You would hate to be forced to be in a lawsuit because someone ran over you and hurt you and caused you to have problems and you couldn't pay your bills. No good, decent person wants to be in a lawsuit. That's the last person in the place in the world you would want to be. Well, it was the same way with this lady. Really wonderful woman. But she had not been told early on, keep this lawsuit over here in a little small compartment in your life, or it will consume you. And I spent about 3 hours with her talking to her today because I felt I needed to. And when I left, I watched her. She wasn't wringing her hands.
But you know, Gary, last week you started off with the 4 agreements, and the first one was never assume anything. Now we've got an individual whose life has been turned upside down. It's been a year. What's going to happen? Am I going to lose everything? Will I ever be made whole? I can see the assumptions running wild in a case like this. And if we're doing those on a daily basis and we're fit and we're okay and things are pretty good in our lives, what kind of damage and stress is that doing to an individual whose whole life is on the line?
What I found, and I've been at this business a long time, probably too long. Actually, you become a pretty good doctor, psychologist, psychiatrist, and the whole bit. But just like, not holding myself out as any of those. But the patterns that I've noticed myself are that if you can't get your client, especially if they're good, wonderful people, to separate themselves from that lawsuit, that it can cause them to develop psychological problems that then manifest themselves by more severe physical injuries than they had otherwise. See, you see these defense doctors, they'll say, okay, there are studies that show that if you're in litigation, you don't seem to heal as well as if you're not in litigation. All because people are trying to get secondary gain. That was the conclusions they reached from that. Well, their study was accurate, but their conclusions were wrong. The people didn't heal because of the stress of being in lawsuits, not being able to sleep at night, not being able to mend, worrying themselves to death on what was going to happen. That's why they didn't heal.
But Gary, what's the other side of it? If you tell this person this, you need to put this aside, you need to try to heal, then you've got a defense attorney and an insurance company that says, oh, look, they went to their grandchild's birthday party and picked up their grandchild. There's nothing wrong with them.
Well, I hope this lady does say it. Well, she needs to, because it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. I was talking to a neurosurgeon in Lexington the other day. His brother had been in really bad, serious wreck, and he was in litigation. And he said, my brother came in to me one day and he said, I've dropped my lawsuit because I can't handle the mental stress of being in it. I've just give up. Now that's what happens to people. Let's take a break and we'll come right back.
I got a question for Gary that you won't want to miss his answer when we come back. Stay with us. This is Simply the Law with Gary C. Johnson, and we'll return right after this.
Hello, I'm Gary C. Johnson. I've plowed with a mule, worked on the assembly line, been a janitor, machine operator, even worked on a garbage truck. When I started practicing law, losing was not an option. So I developed my own system, a system that was so much like judo that I called it judo law. It works. I have the largest verdict in the state of Kentucky. Give me a call, pound hurt.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. As we were ending that segment, Gary told about the individual who told his brother, the neurosurgeon, I've got to drop my lawsuit. Mentally, I can't take it anymore. The thing that hurts even worse about this, Gary, is that the insurance companies and the defense attorneys have a number, a stat, that excruciating pain will affect X amount of people across the country, and they will do just that, and it means money to them.
It's not personal. As I said last week, what the insurance company is doing is not personal. There's no reason to get mad about it. It's just business. They know how many times, if they do certain things, that they can get people to not even file a lawsuit or to drop the lawsuit before it's over. There's a statistic that they use. It's just business for them. Okay, let's go to the computer. I want to talk to you about some stuff. There's our number in case you need to call us. Website, GaryCJohnson.com. In general, my friends, make sure you've got your underinsurance on your own insurance policy. Arbitration. I know you guys that have watched this program often are getting sick of seeing this, but you'll be glad you saw it if you ever get caught up in this. So don't sign that when you go to the hospital or a nursing home. Let's talk some common sense. Appreciate the people you associate with. Number one, family, friends, and co-workers. Show some honest appreciation. Look over right now to whoever you're with and say, thank you for being in my life. Otherwise, I'd be here alone. Honest appreciation always gets results where criticism always fails. Dale Carnegie book, I shall pass this way but once. Any good, therefore, that I can do, any kindness that I can show to any human being, let it be now. Let me not defer nor neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. This is a creed that we should all live by. In other words, if you touch another person's life, leave them better because of it, not worse. I'm going to skip through this joy and sorrow right quick. Now let's talk a little bit about a deposition, a lawsuit. Because after all, this is simply the law, right? If you are in a lawsuit and you happen to tune into this program and you're going to be giving a deposition, and a deposition is where that you come to a table like Keith and I are sitting at here, or a conference table. There'll be a court reporter there taking notes, probably a camera there videoing your testimony, more likely than not in this day and time. You'll be sworn to tell the truth, and then a lawyer, the other lawyer, the one that's not your lawyer, will start asking you questions about things in your life. That's how a deposition works. That deposition can then be used if the case goes to trial. So now you've got in a lawsuit, and it's come time for your deposition. Oh, no, 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 no. What do I do? What do I do?
Well, you kind of got me on that first statement. They're going to ask you things about your life.
Yep.
That kind of threw me off.
They're
I thought
going to ask you about your family. They're going to ask you about how many times you've been convicted of a felon. They're going to ask you what church you go to. They're going to ask you who your kids are. They're going to ask you who your relatives are. They're going to ask you all kinds of stuff. They're going to ask you about your Facebook, which I would hope you'd have sense enough not to be posting on. But
I've got to ask you, what's that got to do with the fact that the truck ran over you and broke your back? I mean, why are we starting off asking all those questions?
because they need it for the background information. You got to have it.
Okay. But also, is that kind of looking at the same time to try to maybe get
Well,
you
if you
to...
got somebody that's sitting there that you've run over and you've tore them all to you know what, and they're broke like this, and you ask them how many times they've been convicted of a felony, and they have to admit that they've been convicted of a felony, then you've just taken their money and that's why.
So all of a sudden you lose empathy, sympathy, honesty. You can say, yeah, look at this person. Where's the credibility, right?
He's a felon. What do you mean?
Yeah. Had nothing to do with the wreck.
The fact that we destroyed him and we broke the safety rules and all of those things, you should ignore that now because, after all, he's a felon.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I see where you're going.
Save the insurance company money. Let's go back to the computer. Talking about your deposition that you're getting ready to go to, guys. You insist on meeting with your lawyer or a lawyer in his or her office before you go to that deposition to ask them any questions you've got. Do not settle on a paralegal, okay? Discuss what's going to be asked in your deposition in detail. If the lawyer's been practicing law very long, if he's been in business, he's going to know the questions that you're going to be asked, and he's going to be able to give you some guidance on what to expect, okay? You have a right to this, an absolute right.
And Gary, when you use that phrase about you're going to be able to give them advice on what they're going to be asked, basically what you're trying to tell me is, Keith, I'm going to let you know what you say can and will be used against you. So if you feel the need to ramble on and to talk and to just talk and talk and talk, they're going to catch you up in something that they'll say might be inaccurate or that you've forgotten.
Getting a really honest person to tell the truth is hard. Now, why is that?
Yeah.
Because they want to make sure they show the world how honest they are, and they end up lying against themselves. I've had it happen.
Well, but I can also see you're asking personal questions that I'm sitting here thinking that has nothing to do with the accident. So why would I want people to know this information when it has nothing to do with the accident? I'll just withhold it.
No, I've had clients really diminish their injuries. Really, really. They have a horrible injury and they downplay it to almost nothing because they want to be to make sure that everybody knows how honest they are.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, folks, now let's go back to the computer. We're talking about the deposition. Your lawyer will tell you, you will find out what you're up against. They'll know whether the lawyer that's going to be asking you questions is nice or whether they're mean or whether they try to trick you. They'll know that. This question's again under oath, which I told you a while ago. It's recorded in an official record by a court reporter. And it may conflict with a recording statement you have given, if you've given one. Now, what do I mean by that? If your insurance company has called you right after the wreck, or their insurance company has called you right after the wreck, and you have given a statement to them that is fresh in your mind and you can remember it, you may be sitting down at that deposition a year later. It's not going to be fresh in your mind. And if you have given a statement Make absolutely certain. Now, if your lawyer's doing his job, he will have that statement. Do not go to that deposition until you've got that statement that you've given so you can read it and refresh your memory. Because you probably will not remember it the same way. You're saying, oh, I know, I will, I'll just tell the truth. You forget. It's human. We forget. Trust me, we forget. Let's take a break and we'll come right back.
My goodness, that is so true. I've got a couple of buddies from high school, and we'll talk about what happened in high school, only to find out all four of us remember it differently, and I'm sure all four of us are probably wrong. Stay with us. Gary C. Johnson and Simply the Law, right after this break.
Hello, I'm Gary C. Johnson. I developed a method of representing my clients that I call judo law. My team and I, using judo law, 17 years ago, we set the record for the largest verdict in the state of Kentucky. It's still the record. We have several other multi-million-dollar verdicts over that period of time, and because of that, my case is settled. I wonder why they settled. If you've been hurt, give us a call.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. I ended that with memory. You are so right, my friend. You can have four people that were there at the event, and they will have four different memories of the time, when it took place, and actually what even happened.
Speed and distance.
Yeah, there you go, from last week, yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the computer. Depositions are mandatory. You have to do one. If you're in a lawsuit, the other side could force you to do a deposition. Your lawyer, I hope, will be present. Don't do a deposition if your lawyer's not there, okay? The other side will be present and they'll be asking you the questions. Your deposition can last all day or several days, but the good thing is usually a deposition only takes an hour or so. But it can go on depending on, it's normally an hour, maybe two at the most.
Gary, can I ask you one quick question? Is it generally a surprise to clients that there is going to be a defense, that they're going to defend against this and try to prove that you're not telling the truth? Are most clients surprised that they would be questioned?
You have to, if you're defending a case, and good defense attorneys know this, they have to find something that can be concentrated on other than the event where their client run over you. In other words, they've got to bring it away from this, which is what really is going on, where they run over somebody and tore them all to pieces. They've got to change it and move it over somewhere else. So they've got to find information about the person and things. Some medical record they had 20 years ago that they've not disclosed. They've got to find something to bring it away from the horror of what happened when that person ran over this person in order to defend it. That's what's going on with the deposition.
So their goal is to, A, win, but if they can't win, find some information that will diminish.
No, that's how they win.
Okay, I got you.
They can't win if they leave it over here where it's actually the wrong deed was done,
Right.
where the wrong act was.
So they got to find information to diminish it.
And to move it over here to where there's a fight in a different place.
Okay.
That's just normal defense tactics. And that's why they're going to grill persons with a deposition to find out their criminal background and everything else they can about them to see if they've posted some stupid stuff on Facebook that they can use against them. Anything to move it away from the event that caused the harm and the injury. It's just the way it is. It's not personal. It's the way it works. Let's take our last break and we'll come right back.
It may not be personal, but it's somewhat surprising that all of that will be asked of you and possibly used against you. Stay with us. More information from Gary C. Johnson after this break.
Hello, I'm Gary C. Johnson. Lawyers are spending millions of dollars asking you to give them a call. What could I say to you to make you want to give me that call? Well, how about the fact that I'm the one that's developed the concept of judo law? How about the fact that using judo law, my team and I, we set the record for the largest verdict in the state of Kentucky, and no one's even come close to it. How's that for a reason to give us the call?
Welcome back into Simply the Law. I hope you enjoyed the program tonight. We've got a couple of more minutes that you want to finish.
Let's go to the computer. I got a few more little tips for you if you're going to be involved in a deposition, and if you're sitting there saying, oh my God, I wish this is over. I don't have a deposition and I'm not going to one. You might someday, huh? Because people do run over people. Okay, back to the computer. If you're preparing, arrive on time for your deposition. Dress conservative and neat. And the reason is you need to dress at the deposition exactly the same way you're planning on dressing if the case actually goes to trial, because they probably will video you. Men, short hair, clean shaven if you can, button down shirt. Women, simple hair, little or no makeup, simple jewelry, conservative clothes. And the reason is, and I want to talk to you about this, why this is so important. You only get one time to make a first impression. That attorney that's taking that deposition is going to be making a report as to who you are, what you're like, what you look like, and whether or not they find you credible, or whether or not they think a jury will find you credible if this case goes to trial. Now, if that attorney makes a good report, good, conservative, neat-looking, credible person that this plaintiff, then when the insurance company makes its reserves on the amount of money they're going to be willing to pay in a settlement, it's going to be a lot higher. That's why it's so important. You can't take anything, and it's a war. You can't take anything for granted once you enter into a litigation field. Every little detail has to be covered. Every little detail has to be thought about. It's not easy. But if you got so many strikes against you because of the tort reform propaganda out there that you can't afford, if you're a plaintiff, to make a mistake. You can't afford to let your credibility ever be questioned, because if you do, you could have a horrible injury and get nothing. And that's why it's so important. And my friends, if you know anybody that's in a lawsuit, talk to them about what I've been talking to you about tonight. It's critically important. Every detail is important. Okay?
My goodness, Gary, it's almost like the cards are stacked against you, and without this information, it would be almost impossible. My friend, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the information. I mean, it was concerning that all of these little things can and will be used against you, even though it didn't really go along with the wreck. But that's why he's here. He points these things out. He's Gary C. Johnson. I'm Keith Casebolt. Thank you so much for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you again next week at this very same time.
Thank you for watching Simply the Law, a program created by Gary C. Johnson. Until next week, may you be safe, blessed, and happy.